Hello everyone, welcome to another dev stream of Foundry. I'm Patrick, here's Mark. Today we're going to look at long distance transport and the modular buildings and the construction industry.
That's right. This is our third stream, so we're going to go deep into that system, take your questions, just chat about the game and generally share what we've been working on in Foundry here. We're doing these streams every week leading up to our launch May 2nd, or early access launch. So we've been doing this game for quite a while now, and we're just excited to get to share it with everybody. So thanks for joining us.
Okay.
And we noticed Paradox has been using our faces for the thumbnails, so I'm just going to cycle through some good Mr. Beast thumbnails so I can make it onto YouTube. Oh no!
You'll make it.
There, watch that be the thumbnail. You'll see.
Fantastic, Mark. Okay, let's.
All right, let's do some stuff. Let's play some Foundry. Where are you going? Patrick's in the sky because he's got his jetpack. That's why we're gonna kind of cheat here. We're gonna be debug spawning stuff because some of the systems we're looking at are a little later in the game and they take a bunch of build up and stuff. So, but feel free to pull us on a tangent wherever you want.
Absolutely, yeah. We have to debug spawn and cheat items a bit because, as Mark said, it would take longer than we have time here. So just that you're aware of that. It all takes a little bit longer when you're going to play the game.
Question about itch buyers. Yeah, so the game was actually originally out on itch.io, so we could get some early feedback on it, and people paid for it. Like when people buy the game, it's always way better feedback than when you give away a demo or something. And yes, everyone who bought on itch is going to receive a Steam key. We should be distributing those relatively soon, but they won't work until the game actually launches. So we plan to start distributing those on itch soon, so everyone can be ready on launch day to play. But yeah, you will not have to buy the game twice. That'd be messed up. So don't worry. We appreciate all your help testing the game. Is this a factory game? Yeah, this is a factory game. This is like modded Minecraft meets Factorio meets gosh, Patrick, what are your other inspirations?
Well, I guess you already brought up the two major inspirations with the game being a crossover between Factorio and modded Minecraft. There are a couple other smaller influences, but they're actually kind of minor, I would say. So yeah, let's stick with modded Minecraft and Factorio.
Yeah, and Patrick's obviously been working on this game for forever, but it's very much its own flavor. It's different than the other games out there. It takes place in this big procedural voxel world with a lot of unique and interesting systems, and everyth's grid aligned and hopefully, no pun intended, very satisfactory to build. But it is a very different flavor of factory game. So what are you building here, Patrick? What is this giant platform in the middle of nowhere?
Well, this is our cargo ship and its landing platform. It's actually its takeoff or start platform, if you want to be more precise. We'll have this as the starting point for where we're shipping all sorts of items, and next we'll place the other one where the ship is going to land, and that's pretty much it that I built so far.
Yeah.
Now I'm building here a logistics container to visualize how the items go in, and then we're going to take a ride on the ship, because as you might have already seen, you can walk in there.
So some comments about how pretty the art is. We have some really talented artists on this game, and our art director Jason Buckowitz. I think he might be doing a stream later. I'm not sure if we figured out who's doing the art stream, but we worked together on Dead Rising 3, and he joined us to come sort of unify the Foundry visuals. So I appreciate hearing that you like the way the game looks because we worked really hard on it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, as for your question, I think that Jason is indeed joining us on the next stream.
Your questions about like what other kinds of transportation? There's tons. This is a late game transportation when you have to go great distances. Obviously the ship carries a lot of material, but it doesn't fly very frequently. So it's kind of like a low throughput version of trains. It's a lot easier to set up than train tracks, which we don't have in the game at early access launch. But it's sort of, we need to get some cargo a great distance, and we don't want to build a ton of infrastructure. That's where transport ships come in. So you build a starting location and an ending location, and they transport between the two.
Yeah, so you can imagine it like that. It's a way of long distance transport that is not overly complicated. It's fairly straightforward to set up. If set up properly, you can achieve high throughput. You might need to build multiple paths to get where you want, depending on the size of your factory. It is, I don't really want to say that the starting tier long distance transport, but I guess that is accurate. It's something that, like Mark already said or mentioned, trains. We're not going to launch with trains, but we have them planned. It's not a 100% guarantee at this point, but we're definitely extremely interested in making that work. If it's not going to be trains, there will be something else that is more complex and has more granularity in how you can control the way the goods are moved. You have quite a bit some control with this one as well, but it's definitely intended as something that is more straightforward, easy to set up, and yeah, compared to trains, because you would configure the stations, and you've seen the other games with trains. You know how it works. So yeah.
Ben Smallwood, and so like obviously there's early game using conveyor belts and all the other like more usual factory tropes. So like there's a ton of stuff before you get here, and then there'll be a ton of stuff later. Ben Smallwood asks, will concrete and decorative blocks be able to be mass removed like the foundations can be? I think concrete is an exception because it's a terrain type before we added decorative, but our regular, we have a huge decorative building system. Those can be mass removed, right, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I know if you want to play around with concrete and you need to remove them all at once, and that's only possible with drilling them, that isn't great. It will most likely be that way when we launch. You can always blow them up, by the way, if it's isolated enough. But what I'd like to point out is you might have seen, I don't know if you've played the demo or just watched streams. Most of the time you see that the dismantling of blocks is pretty slow at the early game, but once you've reached the mining laser, for example, or we have research that increases drill speed, so it gets better, but I totally agree. Eventually we'll need to think of something that allows us to remove terrain blocks quicker.
And for context, it was just basically we added concrete before we added the decorative system. So it's almost like it's considered terrain, so it's not considered a decorative element. Little known fact is concrete also increases your move speed, which is different. So there you go. You can make sidewalks that are faster to walk on. We also have escalators. So if you really want to walk fast, you can power walk down some airport escalators. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so I've been setting up the target or the destination station in the meantime. I'd like to talk about the screen panel here real quick. So what you can see here There isn't much to do. You just need to select a name. In that case, I just picked target station because I wasn't very creative on that one. And that's pretty much all you need to configure on the target station. So we're flying back over to the starting point. Oh, I see. Mark is making this more beautiful. Thank you.
It was ugly. I was worried. What if they saw we just have a floating platform and then they all didn't buy the game because you did floating platforms?
Yeah, sure. Shame that there isn't a third-person view. Well, we tried it, and the thing is, it did not work well. One of the reasons are those screen panels, and there are a couple other things. So
there's parts where it works quite well, like above ground, running around. But as you get a little further into the game and you start like digging underground, like there's just a lot of scenarios where it fails later. Unfortunately, it's not to say we won't ever patch it in, because like obviously it's a comfort thing as well. But our initial experiments made it clear to us that it would be like us putting in a feature that didn't really work. So hopefully we find out that's not the case later. So it sounds like Urkel64, our resident modder, has already tried it, and unfortunately said it wasn't that good either, which is too bad.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm now here at the screen panel of the target station, and I already configured the destination, and now I'm going to show you takeoff conditions. This is going to look a bit complicated maybe on first look, but trust me, it's not. What you can do here is you can pick between two different takeoff conditions. You can choose one, or you could even have both. If you have both, the game lets you pick if one of those needs to be true before the ship starts, or you can have both to be true. So for example, right now I selected that the ship is going to wait until it's 100% full. I could change that here so that it's going to take off as soon as it is just 50% full. And I could also say, well, or wait until 30 seconds have passed. It always depends on what you're trying to achieve. For most people, I guess the inventory filled percentage is totally fine, but if you have something more, maybe something with low throughput rates, but you still want the constant flow, then the time condition can always be very helpful. I'm going to leave this at 50% inventory fill rate.
There's a question, how many items is full? Like, what's the actual throughput of this system?
Well, the actual throughput depends on the distance the ship needs to cover. The ship flies quite a bit faster than the green belt is moving, so it's if you've experienced scenarios where you had to lay out a long conveyor belt to one of the farther out ores, it's going to be quicker. That's basically the simple answer. And yeah, for exact throughput, it depends on the distance.
What about the actual number of items? So like, you have like how many slots do you have in there? I didn't see.
Oh yeah, so this has currently 10 inventory slots, although that is actually something we're probably still experimenting with, if this needs to be larger or not. For now, it seems like 10 works, but it might benefit from being 15 or maybe even 20. So yeah, that's
is this game like Satisfactory? You know, so Patrick started working on this game before Satisfactory came out, so there's some very different design decisions. But yeah, it's a factory game like Satisfactory, but it takes its inspiration from wildly different games, and it plays differently. What attracted me to Foundry when I played Patrick's first demo was like just sort of the chill, meditative way that it is. Like after a stressful day of work, you just kind of feel like, chilling out and not fighting monsters and stuff. So it's like you focus on building and solving these problems, and the game kind of gets out of your way. It's very relaxing, kind of meditative soundtrack, pastel, calm visuals, grid-aligned building. For me, this is a game about the actual mechanics of factory building, less about. Although we have a story that we're going to talk a bit about more, and like goals and all this stuff. Layered in. The actual like unique core for me as a player is that it's like the first factory game where I actually wanted to build a factory, and I think that's our goal, is to like get people into factory building in a way we haven't before. Hey, looks like our ship's taking off. I'm trying to catch it. I want to ride.
So we're going to fly along next time, but well, maybe you can catch it, but. I doubt it.
Can't. Turns out I can't. I'm trying my hardest, Patrick, but I don't think I'm getting.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
The maps are completely procedurally generated. Resources are procedurally placed. They're infinite, like within the limits of floating point math. So every time you create a new map, you just change the seed like Minecraft to get a new world. And we're gonna like layer on way more cool world stuff as the game develops. This is coming out into early access so that we can kind of get player feedback and adapt. How many resource types are there, Patrick? That's a good question. I haven't counted them before.
There are currently 5 different mineable resources and 1 liquid resource that's acquired through pump checks. There's another resource I'm not going to talk about at the moment that is acquired in a completely different way. So
yeah, we haven't talked about that. There are some surprises for people who play this game where we're purposely being a little coy with some of the stuff we've added, so that there's some surprises for launch day. Okay, so you're going for a ride now. You're basically you're off flying with our buddy here.
I am.
And I think that's actually a fun idea, is that like using this as a method of getting around the map is always like been a fun kind of like side effect of building these, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And we're thinking about maybe, since we already have this system, it would be pretty trivial to add something like a cap system or something like that, so that you don't have to ride those huge cargo ships, because you can't really make them start exactly the point you want, because it depends on the takeoff conditions. But yeah.
Patrick, one thing that might be useful for people who are just tuning in is to kind of show the research tree and when you get this long distance transport, because I think like out of context, you're like, oh, we got these cool ships, but like whereabouts does that happen in the game? Because so these are all the different researches you can get here, but maybe talk us through that.
Sure. Well, so this comes in the science tier 4. So that means this is currently the last science tier we're shipping in the early access version, but Science Tier 4 is pretty long. There is Science Tier 5 in there as well, but it's more like it's very short. This is like the part we're going to expand on soon. So as of now, this is coming in the early late game. As of what is planned for the overall scope of Foundry, this would be mid game. So we have a lot more content planned, so there'll be more science tiers. There'll be tier 5, there'll be tier 6, and everything behind. We don't know yet, but
there'll be a lot of surprises. Some questions about trains. I think we might as well be transparent on that. Like, we have prototyped them, we just don't have the purpose for them yet. Like, I think as you want to expand your base further out and you need those long distance methods of throughput, will do it. But yeah, the question again, how big is this map? Like, it's infinite. So like, you can go 30 minutes walking in a direction, and like eventually what will happen is you're so far from the origin that like weird stuff will start to happen. So like that's something that we can fix, and then you can just go on until you run out of memory on your computer. But right now it's really, you have more than enough space to do whatever you want. And then some of those bugs that happen when you walk 30, 40, 50 minutes away from the starting point in a straight line will get fixed post early access. I'm not sure if you ever see this. Is like basically in a computer you store a position as something called a floating number, which has like a decimal point. And as you get further and further and further away from zero, it becomes less accurate, and then weird stuff happens. So the goal is to fix that so that it doesn't have those inaccuracies when you go an hour away from the starting point. And then it'll just, when you run out of memory, you can go buy more RAM, and you can go as far as you want once we fix that. It's actually kind of fun. Like it's really fun to actually see your computer fall apart from a distance when you go so far from the start. But you can start in any biome. Yeah, we do some like crafting of where you start to make sure it's a good experience. But then after that, it's pretty. I think it's based on a temperature gradient that Patrick came up with. So it's not just random biomes, I believe.
Yes, we don't necessarily have enough biomes for it to be clearly visible, but yeah, it's dependent on like overlaying shapes of temperature and humidity, and that creates accurately laid out biome distribution. So that means you're unlikely to have like some sort of tundra next to the desert, because that wouldn't match. It would automatically in between create regular grassland or a jungle, whatever, depends on which it is. And for the starting location question, we do prepare the start for you so that it's going to work well in terms of there's starting ore, you want all those things, but you can actually start in each biome. So it's just RNG dependent. It's not like you're always starting in grassland or something. It can be anything.
Urkel said he went 60 kilometers from the origin in an old version, and the only weird thing was the sun warp. Yeah, I think at about 60 kilometers from the origin, the sun like becomes a weird oval and totally rips apart. We might have actually fixed the sun. I know when you go far enough, your drill starts like animating weird, but there's all sorts of little things. Question about consoles. So we don't have console support right now. I'm a big Steam Deck fan, so I've been trying to make sure that we can play on a controller. We're considering it partial controller support for early access, so it's playable, but you might have to use a virtual cursor and stuff at different points, which is like less than ideal. But like I said, it's playable on Steam Deck controller and enjoyable. We hope to like really nail controller support later and then bring it to console. But right now we're just launching on Steam with partial controller support. Can you ride belts? That's a good question, because in some other games you can ride belts, and I don't know, like it's really fun, especially in like a trailer or like when you're doing a little meme. But what happens is you end up trying to play something and you move. And it's the most frustrating thing. And then every game ends up patching it so you can turn it off. So we haven't made it so you can ride belts yet. But that might not be a bad optional feature later.
Yeah, so we did experiment with this, but as I showed previously, we have those screen panels on pretty much every machine, and I'm going to show you something here. So on this building, it's not a big deal because it's just here on the pad. But let's take, for example, the most common machine. That would be the assembler. And the assembler has its screen panel right here, and most people tend to have belts in front of it, maybe not just one, maybe even multiple, and then like for example have a loader or something like that. And if you want to configure it, you have to step on the belts to do that. And if those belts would move you, I can tell you it would be a bad experience. So that's why we're not having it.
As I was saying that, Patrick, I did think of something else we should show. Some people may have seen this, but for those who haven't, this is our escalator system.
I
so
already spawned it, yeah.
Did you really? I was doing it over here. I thought I was going to beat you to it.
Oh, yeah, it's already here. So this is basically the same thing, but it does move you when you step on. See, it's like all hands free. Yeah, we could do it, but it wasn't fun. So that's why we just made this for if you want it, yeah.
And this is also ends up being infrastructure for getting around the map faster. So if you know you have to run between two areas, like if you come to, I built you a little one here, but it's the wrong way, Patrick. So sorry. I built a network between the two. I'll make it go the other way too. So don't worry, we got this. But yeah, no, you can make infrastructure and things like that.
So with a question here, for what is there an escalator system actually? Isn't the jetpack much faster? Well, it is, but two things. First of all, the jetpack isn't unlocked from the start, so the escalators are available quicker. And the other one is, just look at it, how cool it is. Like, they don't fight each other. This is just
they're different.
This is just super fun to build and use. So yeah, this is more of a. It's not just decoration per se, but it definitely is something that is also intended to make your factory look cooler.
And I know I've heard the suggestion before that like we just didn't have time for early access was let you upgrade it like other conveyors and like our other belts. It makes sense that we might add upgrades to this. We just didn't have time. But, you know, that's a likely update. You know, if we look at this and it doesn't look too goofy for you to go 100 kilometers an hour on this thing, maybe we'll do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to commit to it here live on stream, but I think we'll end up with upgrades, but they're just not there yet. Okay, now we can go between our two bases easily, Patrick. I made it for you. Coming to you.
Yeah? Well.
Yeah.
So
I helped, and now I'm going to make some lights.
Oh, see, yeah. Well, I was just about to show off the one I built, but I think yours is actually cooler, so we'll...
Thank you for admitting it. It takes a big man to admit it.
I'm going to take a look at yours in a second, and then we're actually going to look at the next topic of this stream, and that
right, which was not escalators.
Yes,
believe it or not.
They always come up, but
you can see where my head's at. I'm like, I want to talk about escalators.
So let's see. Oh yeah, yours is beautiful, Mark.
Thank you. It takes a lot. It means a lot to me to hear that.
Will there be blueprints in the game at some point? So, you know, we've talked about things not being a guarantee before, so, you know, I don't want to like 100% guarantee it, but a factory game without blueprints definitely sounds wrong to me. So there's unless we hit some sort of problem where it just doesn't work out with the game, we definitely want to add them. So I can't really talk yet about the timeline. It being a more complex feature, it's not clear it's going to be the highest of priorities compared to other things, but yeah, we're evaluating it. I know its value, obviously. So I said initially it's inspired by Factorio and modded Minecraft, so obviously I'm well aware of the use case for blueprints.
I want you to know, Patrick, I completely forgot we were streaming and I was just playing. And I swear to God, there's just something so fun about building like cosmetic and like infrastructure pieces in this game. So I haven't been reading questions at all. So thank you for taking the mantle while I finish my
I'm going to take the next one here as well. What about dedicated servers? So, yeah, it's looking good with the dedicated servers. They will be launched in an experimental state, I would assume, but we have them up and running. We're now testing them. We're not yet fully confident to remove the experimental label because, you know, there's only so much you can test with a small team, and there might be some things we might have missed. So if we discover issues with the dedicated servers, they'll always be top priority, of course. But yeah, we'll be launching with them.
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, I think dedicated servers are just a nice thing for when you want to play with friends, and this is a great game in co-op. So I'm glad we got it. I think like the thing we cut from the very first build that goes out is like, I don't think we're going to show the server listing. I think you have to like join by IP, or on your friend on Steam. So it won't be in the state we want them to stay in, but it'll be enough for the people that want to get started or want to use a web host or whatever, so you can play together. Roadmap, yeah, we're gonna release a roadmap before we launch. We're working on it right now. We want to kind of this is a living game. It's early access. Lots yet to come. So that'll be a big document that'll kind of show you some of the cool features we have planned. And like, I don't think we talked about it too much, but like, the game starts out small. You build small little things at 1-2 blocks big, and then you build lots of them, and you scale up and you scale up and you scale up. And so like a lot of what's coming in the future is going to be these big infrastructure projects, but there'll also be like interesting things at the micro scale, things that we didn't get to that like add really nice sort of like multipliers on the content. We have some cool surprises coming. So
absolutely. Okay, so I've started to place a third platform because we'll be needing it for the construction industry. So
I will pretty it up, and you do you. I got this, Patrick. Don't worry.
Perfect. I'll then talk a bit about the construction industry and what that actually means, because we're using that word often, but I think it's not really immediately obvious what that even means. So I'll quickly recap that for you. So in Foundry we have regular buildings like the assembler or like whatever, a smelter here. You just place them by hand, you demolish them by hand, and that's all pretty cool. But what always bothered me as a hardcore factory player was when you look at those factories and compare them to real life, the thing you notice is factories in reality get really big as well, but it's rarely 1,000 small machines. Those are mostly just huge objects. It obviously depends on what it is, but a good example would be like a steel mill. That's not made up of 1,000 small smelters, right? Like there's one big one and that does all the work. And that is what I believe, or what I felt always a bit disappointing, that I can't go big. So this is how we approach this here in Foundry. We added something called modular buildings, and those are buildings you can configure out of smaller modules, and they serve a certain purpose, and the module configuration that you pick has an influence on how the building behaves, and like throughput, energy consumption, stuff like that. And we're going to build one today. And they are built through what is called construction industry because they're too big to be placed by hand. It didn't feel right, so we basically created a system that lets you start out with a construction site, and then you plan the thing, and then you have your construction industry. Those are like construction ships and transport drones that build it for you. So Mark, I'll need you to leave the area because we are placing the base object for a blast furnace. So
we need vertical belts, Patrick. I have to interrupt everything you're doing, and there's a need out there.
Well, we have freight elevators already, so those are kinda like vertical belts, and we can show them later.
Okay. What do you got there, Patrick? What is this cool little thing you got?
This is the base object for a blast furnace. This is the first part you place by hand. And from here on, you configure it with this handy tool, the modular building planner. So let's open it. And now we're swapping over to a visual editor that shows us how it looks. This even shows the character here, so that's important because you need to know the orientation. If you want to like attach something on the left side, you kind of need to know where you are in relation to the building itself. And when I click here this red button, it tells me what I can attach here. So I select this module. Now it's just gotten bigger. On the left side here, you have an overview about modules that can be used. Not all of them have to be used. And what is required. Certain things are required. So we're going to configure this now. Speed this a bit up, but basically is the more you use, you see I could have just used one of those modules, but I decided to use 5 to get to speed 200% here. Then I'm going to place some inputs here. I'm going to place some outputs here. And configure the whole thing. And this is what it's going to look like when it's fully built. And now I'm going to say start construction. And look how it looks now. It's been fully scaffolded. And
that's going to be a big building, Patrick.
Yeah. And nothing's going to happen because we haven't set up the construction industry. So
right. I don't know how to build this. I think we're going to need drones, Patrick.
That's true.
Yeah. All right, Mark, get to work. Okay, I got my drill. I got this, Patrick. Don't worry, I'm on top. It'd be great if you could make it so that if you manually mine each and every voxel in the scaffold, that it works. That'd be good. I think that would make sense to me. You know, we should have, a no drone run. Okay, so what ship are you building there? And you've got some solar. Why do you need solar?
So this building needs high voltage power, so I just had to set up a two small solar panels to generate us some high voltage power so that we can feed into this construction ship. So the construction ship has construction drones docked in, and they are eventually going to build the building for us. But they're unable to start yet because when I open this back up and I look, it says required materials, construction material, 0 out of 14. Now, why does it say 14? Because that seems a bit low. This is because we have enabled another debug command, because building a building like that would take quite a while. It's not super long because we don't make things too punishing if you figure out that it's not placed the way you want it and you want to move it. So it's not like crazy long, but it does take maybe 15-20 minutes. It depends on your setup, how quickly you're able to produce the construction material and how many construction ships you have. So it varies, but you could assume it takes around 15 minutes.
There was a reasonable question. Is like, I've long wanted to ask why resources are loaded from above and not below. I think maybe I can answer that. So like for this construction ship, like Patrick's placing these ships right next to the construction site, but that's not usually how it goes. Usually you've got this building somewhere else and you have one set of construction industry that's flying over and building it somewhere else. So you don't have to set this up every single time you want to build a modular building. It's these guys are flying to wherever you built it, and even though it looks convenient to just drive the resources in here because of the test setup, in the actual game, you want to set this up one time and focus that to actually build these buildings elsewhere.
Yeah, it's a matter of convenience. So if you would have to move a belt to each of those construction sites just for while it's building, that would not be great, because you need to, once it's done, you need to demolish the belt again. Like it just didn't feel right. So we went with a solution that delivers everything from air. So right. The building on the left side here is an actual construction warehouse, and the warehouse stores all your construction material. I'm going to debug spawn this and insert it manually. Also, you can already see here, this has a storage capacity of 25,000. So this is balanced in a way where it does not work to manually move the resources quickly. So the stack size of construction material isn't high, and moving it by hand is not an option. So yeah.
The cheating is hard, basically.
Yeah.
But there's another question about modular buildings, about like the handrails and stuff, and like my understanding, you can correct me if we didn't fix this, but you can connect your user placed handrails to the handrails in these buildings, right?
Yes.
There's like
yes.
They fully integrate into your the walkways fully integrate with the ones you can place, so that you can make a base that you can walk around without jetpacks and stuff like that. So we put a lot of effort into making sure, although you build these in a different way, they're still regular buildings. And so it looks like some materials coming down into the base now.
Yes, they're being delivered.
That's good.
Through this transport ship, and at the same time, the construction ship is taking off and is building. So normally you would see those drones build the building. This is now not going to happen because...
Oh no, you've cheated.
Yeah, because of the cheats. You see, they took off and they flew a bit. Well, we can do it. We'll disable it now, the cheat building, and we'll build another one to...
Okay, that's what I love to hear. I was so sad because I was the one that coded the drones working, so when I saw them just cheat and just auto-construct, I was like, oh no.
Let's build another one, but I want to show off the blast furnace a bit first.
That's a pretty building. What does a blast furnace do, Patrick?
It produces all sorts of metallurgic goods, like steel, iron. It's, in the context of our game, it's pretty much the same. It produces xenoferrite plates and technum rods at the beginning. This is the first tiers, and after time, this is probably not going to be in the early access version, but after time we'll open it up to be used with other materials and alloys as well.
there was a good question about how high do the ships fly, and I think all of the ships, when they're transiting, fly outside of the bounds of placeable space. Like the world is 256 voxel blocks tall, and they fly 270 up in the air, something like that.
Yeah.
That correct, Patrick?
That is. I'm going to
Yeah,
show
so-
off what
Which is
Mark-
nice. That means that you know they're not crashing into your concrete and whatnot. So that's a bonus.
I'm showing off here what Mark meant with the walkways. We have those
Perfect.
walkways you can place, and they automatically connect to the ones inbuilt of those modular buildings.
Wow.
That means I can adjust this here and like build my own stair here, which is not part of the blast furnace, and it connects seamlessly. That was something. It was really
That is
important
cool.
for me to add that, because I just think that's really great.
Yeah, you don't want to feel frustrated that we're like the reason you have the whole modular building system is because they're such large buildings, but you don't want to feel like they're a whole different system. You want them to integrate into your world. So it does seem to matter. So is this just the more efficient smelter, Patrick? That's a good question. You got to answer that here.
Yeah, basically it is just a more efficient smelter, if you want to call
That
it like
sounds so
that.
lame when he says that. but it's about scale,
so-
right? Like so the thing.
I mean, it's
go
not
ahead,
entirely
Patrick.
true. It is on the high level. It is not on the detail. I'll go to the screen panel at the bottom. It works differently. It's not like just ore goes in, plates come out.
Right.
Going to.
But you know, for me, the hook of Foundry is always wanting to go bigger, and so like, you know, this is a thing that lets you hit another, you know, order of magnitude larger in your construction, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
just more efficient; it's the scale. The scale is so much different than a regular building.
Absolutely. And yeah, it has a couple minor features on how it works different, but on a high level, it is the next tier of producing xenoferrite plates once you need to scale up.
This is Kurdau had a good question. Like, hey, you did your next fest in October and then didn't release right away. I can't exactly remember the conversation there, like whether we had actually planned to release right away. I don't think so. The thing about Foundry is that, you know, games like this live or die by player feedback. And although like Next Fest is a great marketing tool, we just hadn't had players at that scale play our game in a long time, and we didn't know if we'd gone off the rails. So yeah, I don't think it was like better to time your Next Fest demo right before you launch, but in our case, it was just better it was better to get feedback and make a better game than to launch right away while we had hype. So hopefully people appreciate the improvements we made and the extra time we took, because it's always, you know, you kind of sometimes you only get one shot to make a good impression with folks, and we just want, even though this is an early access release, we want people to know that we're serious about this game and that it's worth your time. And I think that's what we have now. And so on May 2nd, when we release, I think we have a really good foundation to convince people to care about this game in the long term, which is what matters, I think. And you've seen this every time. It's like, you know, a bad game is forever. You got to take your time, release the best version you can, and make sure folks, you know, you respect folks' time. It's not about the developers sometimes. It's about what they want. It's what the players need and want. Because Patrick, I don't want to speak for you, but I bet you wish this game had been out already. You know,
Yeah.
it's hard to work. It's hard to work on it quietly to yourself, right?
Absolutely. I'm really excited to finally get it out to a larger audience. We've been working on this for so long, but I couldn't have said it any better as you already did. You
Yeah.
need to finish it first, or like not finish because we're launching into early access, but to get it into the state the audience deserves. We don't want to release something that feels incomplete or maybe buggy and not polished enough. We're happy now where it is at the moment, and it'll be a really, really great foundation to launch into early access. We have surely around 40 to 50 hours gameplay if you're quite big, fast, sorry, not big. If you take your time, use the decorative elements, and you're into those things, the creative type of gameplay, you can easily get 100 hours out of this. We have plenty of players who played way longer, so...
And that was with a much older build. So, like, you know, the reality is, I think this is a game that's going to grow and change, and there's, you know, some people will burn through the content, but a lot of players will have stuff to do for a long time. Look at all these drones, Patrick.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Who did those?
Ha, well, I can't remember at the moment.
Damn it. It was me, I swear.
It was Mark, and you did a fantastic job on them. It looks so cool.
Well, yeah, no, that's the famous last words. They'll be like the #1 bug reported in early access will be these drones not like flying right or something. But they're really just a cosmetic layer, like as the building builds. But we want to visualize and see cool progress and have like a little fleet of minions working on your building. Just have some action, you know, in the space to kind of make it not feel so lame. Make it, you know, commiserate of what you're doing, which is automating the construction of a giant building. Did Mark explode anything yet? Not yet, but I intend to.
Well,
can you stand and ride on the ships? Yes, you can. They're not. These ships aren't as good as the transport ship. Works way better when you stand inside the cockpit of the long distance transport. But I've noticed that you can surf these up into the sky outside of the game bounds. I appreciate that. If you go on any of these delivery ships or the construction drone ships that they fly up. So that is something I tend to do is fly those into space. And I recommend you do it as well.
Yeah, it's like a challenge. It's easy to fall off, but you can manage to stay on top of them.
I was trying to read Twitch chat, and all the ships flew away before I could ride them. I don't think I'll get on in time at all. They're too high. That's lame. Yeah. Please apologize for how I'm about to pronounce your name, Clanahar. That's not how you say it, is it? But yeah, he says, yeah, I put over 100 hours in the demo. Yeah, I mean, and the demo is only Science Pack 2, I think. So there's a lot more content in this version, a lot more polish, and a lot more cool stuff, and a lot more stuff to come still. So hopefully, you know, that we can keep your interest even longer with this. But we appreciate you providing all that feedback. A lot of praise for the demo. Hey, you know, I appreciate that. You know, we keep talking about early access, but like we did hear from a lot of folks, even when we had itch, you know, this is already better than a lot of games they're playing in the genre. And you know, it didn't feel that way to us, but you know, it's really great to hear folks yell at us to release, because that's what we want to hear. We want to hear the game's good enough, because you know, it's stressful sharing what you worked on with everybody and hoping they like it. So whenever we hear that, we're super happy.
Absolutely.
Do you know what time it will drop on May 2nd? I actually don't know the exact timing. I don't think it's the usual like 10 a.m. PST timing, because Paradox is in Sweden. So is it earlier in the day or something like that? Patrick, do you remember, or have we said the time?
I don't think it is fully decided yet, but I think the recent Paradox titles all launched on 6 p.m. European time, Swedish time, CEST, and it might be that this is also our time to launch, but like I'm speculating at this point. As soon as it's decided, we will let you know.
A lot of questions about like how did we compare this to other games in the genre. I mean, you have to. That's the thing is like when some of these games launched, there weren't all the other ones, and so we're launching into an environment where there are a lot of really good factory games. Dyson Sphere is awesome, Satisfactory is awesome. I really like Tectonica. There's so many good games out right now in this genre, and so when you launch, you have to launch and say, hey, do we think our game is worth your time in the context of all of these other factory games you could be playing? And so I think there's a version of Foundry that could have launched years ago and still been competitive, but like we want to be respectful of your time and make sure the version we launch is worth playing in the landscape with all these other great games being out. And I think that's what we have now, and it just took a little extra time. Yeah, people are just making better games. That's totally the truth.
Yeah.
The bar is moving higher and higher, which is good. It's good for everybody. Let's be real. I like playing good games. So, is this end game stuff, Patrick? Like, where would you say this stuff appears in the timeline?
So this is absolutely the end game of what is going to be the early access launch version. In the grand scheme of the Foundry, let's call it 1.0 scope, it's basically around the transition from mid game to late game. Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of buildings in this style. Like this isn't just these two buildings. There's way more you can build.
Yeah. We have a couple more, and expanding on this system and adding more buildings of that style is something we're focused on. Although we don't want it to be, we want those buildings to be meaningful. We don't want to add like 20 more of them because, as you see, it takes time to build them. Factory games are about experimenting and restructuring, so we also want to make sure that it doesn't conflict too much with your desire of trying to play around. Something else to show here on that issue is also you don't have to fully remove them. You could, for example, say you adjust them a little bit, like make it a bit smaller, and then you could restart or like have them be modified through the construction industry, so you don't have to demolish them fully if you figured out that it needs to be bigger or smaller or just look different. So we try to keep this as convenient as possible, and yeah,
somebody pointed out one of the drones got stuck, and they said, "Who designed this shit?" Sorry about that, guys. I don't know who got that drone stuck, if they do get stuck there.
I saw the comment, and I was waiting for you to read that one. So yeah.
I was actually, there's one comment, Patrick, that I thought might be worth mentioning, because like it's not something I had thought about much, but like the stack size in your inventory, whether you're playing a bunch of like inventory Tetris. I think like stack sizes are generally generous and they auto stack in your belt. So like I don't think I normally am managing my inventory all that much, but like do you have any comments on that?
Well, I mean, I don't have that much to say about it. Sure, inventory management is a topic here. You have research to increase it. We have auto sort buttons to make it convenient. We made the construction material extremely low stack size, so that it's never makes sense to move those by hand as I'm doing now for like debug purposes. In general,
but like say like for building blocks, you have quite large stack sizes, and then in your inventory bar at the bottom, it merges all those stacks. Like you have 5 or 6 stacks of building blocks. I see. On slot 3.
Sure. Yeah, it's the hotkey bar sums it all up. At the bottom there is that's not an inventory. That's more like a shortcut.
Right.
And yeah, that's pretty much that. Psychatic asks if I deconstruct the big buildings, do I get resources back? So the answer is simple. It's yes, and you get all of them back, because that is one of the key design elements for a game like that for me, that you're never punished for playing around with things. You do get it back though with a bit of gameplay only. When you demolish it, where you're actually getting it back is construction site rubble, and the rubble needs to be brought back to the warehouse, and the warehouse recycles it for you back into construction material. But the rate is 1-to-1. You're not losing it. You could say you're losing a minor amount of power, but it's really not worth talking about on the grand scale of power consumption in a larger factory. So yeah, no punishment for playing around and moving things around.
You know, Urkel64 said, I found like limiting the inventory size at the start of the game a little limiting, and then upgrading it later in the game, it felt good. That's actually one of the things about video games is it's not always like the goal to make everything as easy as possible. It's to make it fun. And so in a factory game, you almost like need to feel some pain and friction before you solve the problem to feel the reward. So you need to mine trees by hand to know that like you want to automate power. You need to manually mine ore to know you want to get mining drones, right? And so I think that's it's an interesting point, is that like trying to figure out what are the like pain points in a game that are bad and unfun, and what are the pain points in a game that are actually like the game. And it's always an interesting thing, and it's way easier to see it when you have lots of people playing and they tell you you're wrong. So that's that is important. There's a bunch of YouTube comments. I haven't read any of those in a minute. Hold on one sec.
I'd like to answer one more first.
Go for it.
That was
I'll read these.
If there's a time penalty for the way I just described it. So in certain scenarios there might be a tiny time penalty, but the recycling rate is extremely quick, and in most scenarios your warehouse is probably filled to the brink anyways. So I think for most players it would not be a time penalty. It would most likely it wouldn't be one. Yeah. There's no section about here.
There's a question about if you have a whole bunch of these drone ships, does the construction site select the closest one, or does it how do you prioritize which drone ship goes to your construction site?
Yes, so they go, if there's multiple construction sites, they prioritize by distance, and if you have multiple construction ships but just one construction site, then they just all will go to the same.
Yeah, and then there's a great question, we actually did a stream yesterday on this topic, or last week on this topic, which is, hey, is there more to the underground content than what I saw in the demo? And yeah, in this version of the game we're launching in early access, we have some ore deposits that are buried, and we have a whole ore vein system, which is deep mining. You have to build mining rigs and stuff. So there's a whole bunch of underground content in the release version of the early access version of this game that you haven't experienced before necessarily, and there'll be more coming over time as well. So yes, there is more underground content and more on the way. Check the past streams if you want to watch that and see how some of the underground mining works on ore veins.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend for you to check out last week's stream if you're into mining. We showed basically all different ways of mining that are in the game at the moment. Underground mining, drone mining, on the surface, or also on deep underground. Take a look if you're interested in that.
Aaron asked lava someday. Heck yes. So this little known fact, the last game I was working on was a game called Hot Lava, and so I've been waiting to add lava to this game since I joined. So we have some prototypes, but it's not ready to ship yet. But I would love to add lava. So we'll see. We'll see if we find a way to sneak it in. Lots of neat plans like that. Like I don't know if it'll show up on our timeline or our what do you call it, the plan we're putting out. But yeah, we have all sorts of great ideas we want to expand for the game, and lava would be awesome.
Yes.
Patrick, one thing, I think I said this in the last stream, but when I look at this construction industry, it reminds me most of this old 90s builder game called Pharaoh, where you're building like pyramids and other monuments. And so every time I see these big monuments we're building, I think of Pharaoh, one of my favorite city builders of all time. So
Yeah.
I hope other people feel that when they play as well.
I know the game. It was not my inspiration particular because I haven't played it actually, although I do know it. I think it's pretty famous. But from what I've seen, it's somewhat comparable.
I don't know if I ever finished a pyramid. I'm going to be honest with you. I've started a whole lot of pyramids. Yes, transporting stone cubes takes forever. Yeah, this is like if Pharaoh was like usable. I could have just been bad at, like, I played it a lot when I was a kid, so I could have just been bad at video games. So I'm not actually sure if Pharaoh was easy or hard, but I remember it taking forever. And then, I would never finish it. So well, what did you build here, by the way? You've obviously, I was talking about random BS, and you built this crazy power system.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk about that?
I don't remember who it was that asked, but I remember someone asking if I can show more about the power system or explain more actually, and instead of just telling you about it, I built parts of it up here. So this is a boiler and steam turbine setup. We're doing is we're drawing in water here through the pipe and the intake. Show this here, and it goes here into our boilers. See, they're doing something. This actually does show the load, and we have fuel. This is like canned fuel going in, powering the boilers, and they put out steam on the backside, and that goes into our turbine, and that produces power. We have two different types of power in the game. We call them high voltage power and low voltage power. The high voltage power goes through the power lines and the power poles, and the low voltage power is simply conveyed through the foundation blocks. And the way to do this, or the way to bring those two together, is through a transformer. So you generate power here with those turbines on the high voltage grid, and then you build a transformer, and that basically forwards the power into the foundation blocks, and the foundation blocks power all your most common machines. So the loaders, the smaller stuff like assemblers, everything you need en masse takes low voltage power for the convenience. So you just place it on the floor, and there's no need to connect every machine with a power cable. And then we have a few larger machines or buildings, like for example those transportation ship pads or the construction ship landing pad, that also requires high voltage power. So that basically is the split we have in Foundry.
So normally when we get to this part of the stream, I start placing C4 everywhere and destroying stuff. But because I feel like I contributed this time, I actually don't want to blow up the base. It's funny how that is.
Well,
I want you to know, I think this is a wonderful little base. Look at all these lights. You can see it at night. Yeah, kitty. We can't blow it up. We need to keep it this time. It's my favorite base we've made. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, and see, the second modular building we had under construction for most of the time actually just finished as well. So now you've seen how long it roughly takes with even a more simplistic setup. So it is not, it's not taking too much of your power. This is still pretty friendly for experimenting and moving things around if they're not at the position you'd like them to be.
You know, there is a GeForce Now question. We haven't actually committed to GeForce Now, but we finally put in the features required for it, so I'm sure we're going to look into it and see if we can get in there. I haven't actually tried GeForce Now yet, but it's I've heard it's gotten quite good. So I'm excited to see if our game works on that. More drones is faster building? Yeah, I think so. You can have multiple drone ships working at the same time, right, Patrick?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, so you can make it's kind of again like Pharaoh, where you can have more workers on the different parts. You can have more construction delivery vehicles. You can have more construction drone ships. You can make it go faster if you want to. Yeah, which is good.
Yes.
So you can scale up. It's not painstakingly slow when you're in the super ultra late game.
Mark, you requested to present the cat.
Oh my goodness, Kitty, what do you want? Let's go. Who said? Who's the kitty? Kitty. The kitty who wants salmon.
Mm.
There she is. She would like a little salmon, if you can't tell from the meowing. She's like, this stream has gone on long enough. Let's go. Let's get some food. So that's what we're experiencing right now.
Best stream ever. See, there we go. I feel like next time we're going to install another camera that points towards the cat.
Best stream ever. Better than C4 to the base, right? You know, that's the truth. Is there a range limit to the drones? I think they can fly anywhere, the drone ships. But yeah.
There's actually no range limit.
What's the floating structure and scale? Oh, yeah. We haven't talked about that too much yet. I don't know when we're gonna talk about that, but that is related to the game, and it's an exciting new thing that hasn't been seen before. So yeah, there's something in the sky.
Yeah.
Maybe it means something. Maybe it's part of the game. We're trying. We have a couple really exciting kind of surprises for our hardcore fans that we're trying our best not to spoil. But we wanted to make sure people that have been playing this game, following it super closely, at least had something to be delighted by when the game launched. And there's a couple really fun surprises. And I can tell you the ship up in the sky is related to the end game. And it's a place that we're going to grow a lot after early access as well. It's not just for show, no. There's some cool stuff coming.
Yes.
Begin your speculation. There is a bit more story. So in the earlier versions, the game was more sandboxy, but now we've given players more of a motivation, a goal, a lot more of that. And again, I don't think folks have seen much of it yet. So
yeah,
if you bought the game, Thawed, you bought the game on itch.io, you will get a Steam key. I think you will receive it through itch.io. I think there'll be like a redeem button there. We're just looking into uploading those keys soon, but we've printed them. You know, Valve was cool with it, so we will be giving everyone who bought the game on itch a free Steam key. But hey, you know, it can't hurt to wishlist us anyways. Push us up those charts. Which, yeah, I mean, if you have, this is Foundry. It's coming out May 2nd. We're published by Paradox Interactive. We've been working on this game for, gosh, forever at this point. And we're getting really excited to release it. And, you know, if you're liking what you're seeing, give us a wish list on Steam, because it really helps out. Shows that these streams, you know, help the game in some way. And we'd like to keep doing them. So if you liked what you saw, please wish list us and check us out on May 2nd when we launch early access. We're the dev, and Paradox is an external publisher for us. So they're helping us with a lot of the marketing, a lot of the biz dev, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But we're solely responsible for development. Can't see. You want to see explosions? Okay, I'll start exploding. Patrick, you can talk about what you want to, but I'm blowing everything up.
I'm going to make a save before you do that.
Okay, I spawned about 400 C4. I don't know if I'll be able to place them all in time.
Well,
I actually can't blow up a lot of this. Like Patrick made this stupid system
I was
where
about
you
to
can't
say,
blow up a big building.
Most of those things are blast resistant, so you'll probably have a bad time here. But you might wanna take a look at the bridge you made and get rid of parts of.
Why would I want to blow up the thing I made? I just don't understand.
Well, you know.
I don't think we're understanding the same things. You know, like this is a very beautiful bridge. Yeah, there's lots of mega buildings.
Can you build on the mega building?
Can you build?
Well,
I see.
So currently not, but I really like the idea, and like you're giving me some food for thought here, and maybe that is something that is going to be added at some point. It wouldn't make much sense for the buildings we have at this moment, because there is not much benefit for another smelter on the blast furnace, but I think it could be an interesting mechanic for certain other modular buildings that are going to come soon, or once after we're into early access and start delivering more updates.
There's a question, can we tag at everyone we go live next time? I think the reason we don't is we don't want to like, every time you add everybody in Discord, you lose a bunch of people who realize this wasn't like relevant to them. And so like we want to save those for big announcements so everyone sees it. So we're a little worried about annoying people. So I think going forward, all the streams are at this time on Thursdays. So put it in your calendar, I guess. I'm not sure.
So maybe worth noting, we are potentially still looking into setting up a system where you can, where we create multiple roles you can subscribe to for people who want to be pinged for even smaller events like this one, and for people who want to be only pinged for the most important stuff. We haven't had the time to set that up, but it's been on our list for a while, yeah.
Yeah, like for me at least, there's a bunch of Discords I'm in that I'm interested in, but like when I see like 8 missed pings, I just like, I don't care at that point, and I never check it. So I think that's what we're trying to avoid, but it makes sense. Last shot before I blow everything up. I'm just looking over. You are a robot. Yeah, you are a robot. Okay, I think that's it.
Well,
I think
that's it. Let me get the good angle.
Well, it's not really gonna blow up until we create like upgraded C4, unfortunately.
I see. Well,
I think that's coming. Oh, did I blow up your? I don't know if I blew this thing up. This will blow up. Sorry, I need 1 more second, guys, and then the stream's over. Okay, now I'm feeling like this will blow up. I'm feeling better now. Okay, you ready?
I am. Show us.
Nothing happened.
There we go. There we go.
There was like such a delay between it exploding. I was like, oh, I didn't push the button. Okay, cool. Hey, this one blows up. This is great. This is great news, everybody. Patrick fixed it.
I'm not even sure if this one should blow up, Mal.
I think it should. Oh. I think this is excellent. I didn't even I barely put any explosive on it. It was very fragile.
Well,
so
yeah.
What a perfect end to the stream.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess this sums it up for today. If you liked what you saw, please wishlist us on Steam. Tune in next time. Going to be on next Thursday.
Yeah, roughly same time the next Thursday.
Yes, same time, and we'll be covering the world of Foundry, how we designed the world, how it looks like. We will most likely have our art director be part of the stream, so he can share his thoughts on how he came up with those designs. You can ask him why this plant looks the way it does, and I'm sure he'll have a very interesting answer for you.
Somebody
And-
threw C4 at it was his answer.
Yeah. And yeah, this is it for today. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.
Yeah. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us.